Hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I am Fatma Mohammed, Consultancy Associate here at Badr Saleh Auditing of Account. Mr. Thala couldn't attend the meeting as he had an urgent matter to attend. Since 2006, Badr Saleh Auditing of Account is providing auditing, tax, financial and business advisory. Badr Saleh is a mid-marketing leading audit firm. We also provide consultancy and ERP services to our clients. This is our third webinar. I would like to hand over to Mr. Ilyas to begin discussion of today's topic.
Thank you very much, Fatma. So, Assalamu alaikum, good morning and good afternoon. So, I'm very pleased to have this third session of this webinar series, the Emerging Finance Challenges and Solutions. So, in the third week, we are discussing about the personal transformation. So, last week, we discussed digital transformation, and so we are now talking about the personal transformation. So it's a less discussed topic, so I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting one. All right, so let's first discuss what is the need to transform personally. If you are a professional, if you're an expert, so why do we transform? So professionals often spend a lot of time becoming experts in their fields by sharpening their technical skills. So even if they are highly skilled, their success cannot be guaranteed if they can't communicate well, if they can't build positive relationships, if they can't collaborate effectively. So collaboration involves a different set of skills. For instance, active listening, for example, empathy, for example, clear communication, which aren't taught during our technical education and training. So it is important to notice and fill this gap for a comprehensive professional development. So building a strong relationship and working with teams well is a key to achieving success in our overall profession. So with this, I have a brief presentation again to get you through. So let me just share with you, and then we'll deep dive into different principles and concepts explained in this personal transformation. Let me just share this. All right, so I'm sure you can see my screen.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm presenting you a methodical approach to personal transformation. So this is actually 7 habits explained by Mr. Stephen Covey in his very famous book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So Mr. Stephen Covey studied the literature of 200 years on success, and then he came up with these 7 habits, and he talks about how a person can be effective by practicing these 7 habits. And mind you, this book has been the international bestseller for many years, and still it is sold in good numbers around the globe. And there is a foundation called Stephen Covey Foundation, which disseminates lots of corporate trainings based on the principles and concepts of these 7 habits. Additionally, this book has transformed the lives of the individuals and organizations as well over the years. So organizations today, even organizations incorporate the principles and corporate concepts of these 7 habits into their management practices, into their strategy and corporate trainings. So let's jump into what these habits are and how we can benefit from these habits and becoming a more transformed finance professional, or maybe any profession. So the topic of this session was the personal transformation, but it is not restricted to just the finance professional. So I'm talking about the every professional, not just the finance professionals. Okay, let's first understand how Stephen set up all these habits, and he calls it a maturity continuum. So level of maturity. So when you don't practice these habits, so you have a low maturity, and when you practice these habits, so you have a high maturity. So see here, so he for the first 3 habits, so he says if you practice first 3 habits, we'll go one by one for each significant habit. So these are the 3 habits. If you practice these 3 habits, you become you gain that private victory. So you get a self-control and become self-reliant. And then when you practice the another 4, 5, and 6, then other 3 habits, then you gain that public victory. That means you start to get, or you start to build good relationship with your teams and with the people. So the first three habits is about the private victory. The second phase is about the public victory. And if you notice this, also this between these habits, there is one dependence and there is one independence, and this is the interdependence. So Stephen calls it a paradigm. The dependence paradigm is something which is like the person is blaming blaming others, like let's say blaming other people for for what is happening in his life, and whatever the consequences which he's facing. So he's blaming everyone. He's blaming the circumstances, the situations, the persons. So with practicing the first three habits, a person when the person gets the private victory and it becomes self-reliant, so he gets that independence. And the independence in the sense that he's now he's got a self-control. So he's not blaming the individuals or circumstances or situations. So he's talking about, now I am responsible, I control myself. Then there is interdependence paradigm, which you get after the public victory, after getting after having good relationship with the people. So here you talk about the mutual cooperation, how you can create synergy with the relationship. Pivoting the relationship with the people. So this is, and if you notice, after these six habits, there is one habit which is called the sharpen the saw, which we will go through later. So the sharpen the saw is circling all these habits. So this sharpening the saw is about the renewal, the constant renewal in our lives. So we'll go into it deeply. Okay, so there is, before we go into the individual habits, there is one concept called paradigm shift. And this is also called a perception shift. And let me tell you further that I'm practicing these habits for last 20 years. And I'm also the trainer of these 7 habits. So why I'm telling you that I'm a practitioner of these 7 habits is that some of the concepts explained in this book, which I'll be explaining you today, these are so hard to implement in life that even after 20 years, I sometimes I feel I'm failing to implement in lives. Even after 20 years, you can imagine how simple they are, but how difficult these concepts are to implement in your lives. For example, take this concept of paradigm shift and the perception shift. And I tell you, when I'll explain you would notice and you would find out that this perception shift concept is available, is there in your lives, in your personal lives, in your professional lives all the time. Believe me, all the time it is there. So what is perception shift in simple words? So I'll be trying to explain you in very, very simple words. Okay, perception shift in simple words is keeping your perceptions about people, about situation flexible. Do not freeze and fix your perception about people and situations. Try to know the facts before you, and try to know the facts. So, and keep the perception flexible so that you can amend your perceptions. If you have a fixed perception and you don't want to know the fact, then you would keep having that fixed perception, and ultimately your relationship would impair. So let me give you an excellent example of the perception shift. So there is a person who is reading book in a Subway restaurant, sitting relaxedly. I mean, he's relaxing and he's reading book. And suddenly there is another person sitting in the restaurant with his 2 kids. The kids are making lots of noise, and the kids are playing all over the restaurant. So the person is getting disturbed. So because he is reading books, so he can't concentrate. So he starts to build the perception about the person, that how disrespectful this person is, and how the crazy the kids are, that they're not thinking about the people around the restaurant, and they're making noise and disturbing people, and he disturbed so much, and he perceived so much about negative thinking about the other person, that eventually he got up and went to the person and asked him, why don't you stop your kids to make such noise, and they're disturbing the whole restaurant. So the person said one sentence that completely changed the perception of the person reading the book. So the person answered him that their mother just died in the hospital. And the person who went up to him and asked about the kids, suddenly his perception changed 360 degrees, and the negative emotions converted positive emotions. So this is what happens when you allow your paradigms, your perceptions to be flexible, and you want to know the facts, and then you want to change actually your perception. So let's deflect this concept in our personal and professional lives. See, if, I mean, better if we compare this concept, if we refer this concept in our professional lives, in the work environment, there are lots of situations, from the morning to the evening. There are lots of situations where we have perceptions. The boss has perceptions about their staff. The team has certain perception about about their boss. So the perceptions are there all the time. So the point is to have flexible perceptions and try to fix those perceptions by trying to know the facts, try to get into what is really causing that particular situation, the behavior, or whatever it is. All right, let's after this beautiful concept, let's jump into the individual habits. So the first habits that Stephen talks about is the be proactive. So to understand well about the be proactive is to understand it's the opposite side, is the reactive. So in our personal and professional lives, we the effective person, because if Stephen calls that if we practice all these 7 habits, we become an effective person. An effective person is the one who achieves what he plans and what he targets. So the effective person doesn't react to situations, doesn't react. He pauses, and he proactively acts. He has a mindful pause, and then he acts according to the situation by analyzing the situation. So let's understand with this proactive model that there are certain stimulus. These stimulus can be a person, can be different situation, can be environment, can be economy, can be anything that is provoking you. Then there is a response, which is obviously your response to the different situations person. And between the stimulus and the response, there is a freedom to choose. And it is, believe me, it is hard to do it, but when you practice, you learn, gradually learn to pause before you act. So there is a stimulus and response, and between them, there is a freedom to choose how you want to act. So let's take an example here. So take example of any animal, let's say cow. If you put a hand on the head of the cow and you push the cow backwards, so what the cow would do? The cow would immediately push you again, because the cow gets in action. So it's in their genes to react against the action. But this is what the difference is between the animals and the human being. That human being, before any actions, they think and then respond. And believe me, well, I'm explaining you. I'm agreeing on the fact that, as I told you, that I'm practicing these habits for the last 20 years. Even still, for certain situations in life, for certain people, it is hard to do. I again agree with this, that it is hard to do. When you start to practice this pause, this mindful pause after the stimulus, if you get any stimulus, any situation, any person, behavior, negative behavior, then you have a mindful pause, and then you act according to your values and ethics. And I mean, if the response is mindful, then there are less chances that you would face the negative consequences. Okay, so there is another very strong concept in this book called, in this habit called proactive, be proactive. This is about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. So the circle of influence involves everything that we value, that we consider, and it involves, this circle of influence involves every external factor that we have control and we don't have any control. It can be anything that it can be your boss, it can be your team, it can be the economy, it can be a COVID pandemic like situation, it can be weather, it can be your spouse spilling the tea when you are ready to go to the office. It can be anything. So there are situations which are in your control, and there are situations and acts and behaviors which are not in your control. So circle of concern involves everything. Now you notice there is another circle which is called the circle of influence, which is under this circle of concern. So this circle of influence involves only those things which you have control. So the concept of this circle of influence and circle of concern is that you have to preserve your energy, and you have to focus on things that are in your control. So circle of, you have to, all the time you have to focus on circle of influence, meaning the things which you have control on, and then spending your energy on these things instead of wasting your energy on things which you don't have control on. So the best example to explain here this concept is your personal grooming, is your personal training, is your skilling up yourself, is the best example. Because you have control on yourself. For example, if you're working in any organization and if you're not happy working there, then perhaps the work culture is not good. So that is the circle of concern. But improving yourself, gaining more knowledge, getting new skills is in your control. So equip yourself and move on. All right. Now the second habit, begin with the end in mind. So uh, this this is very important habit, and I as a finance professional always refer it to my community as well, because begin with the end mind is something related to planning. And we being the strategic leaders, strategic finance professionals, we need to plan. If we plan well, then we can execute well. So this is the whole idea of this, begin with the end in mind. So begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that everything is created twice. First is the mental creation, and then is the physical creation. So you create things first mentally, means the planning, and then you create things physically, means the execution. There is another very important concept in this begin with the end in mind is the personal mission statement, writing a personal mission statement. So I would, everybody who is listening this session, I would like you to write your life's personal mission statement today, or maybe you can take 1 week and write your own mission statement. It can be a one-page top priority items that this is what you want to be in your career, in your life, in your personal life, in your professional life, and this is what you want to achieve. Even you can consider it things like, if you are like husband, so you want to include things that how you want to be remembered by your wife, by your children, when you die, let's say. So even you can include things like that. So it is like writing your own constitution, and you want to live your life according to that constitution. So this is the whole idea of begin with the end in mind. So the third habit is called the put first things first. So this habit is about time management, about setting the priorities in your life. So we know that there are many activities, things in our lives which are important, which are urgent, which are not important. So we need to prioritize. In order to be effective, we need to be able to prioritize things, prioritize activities, and we need to really work smart in order to get through with all those challenges. It is important to, so there is two things in this habit called the compass and the clock. The compass suggests the direction, so your direction. So the direction represents the priorities, and the clock represents the speed. So it is not important in your life to that how fast you are going. It is important where are you heading. So if you have certain goals, certain priorities, certain objectives in mind, that is important to follow that instead of how fast you are achieving those priorities and objectives. Now, another very, very excellent time management metrics explained by Mr. Stephen Covey, and I would really, really like everybody who is listening to implement this time management metrics in your professional and personal lives, especially the professional lives. And wherever because I'm a faculty at university as well, I do lots of trainings as well. So I always, whenever I get the opportunity, I explain this matrix. So if you see, it's a very, very simple matrix. Just understand with me that this is urgent and this is not urgent, this is important and this is not important. So what is this? This is our activities, our priorities. So we all of us, we have certain urgent priorities and tasks and activities, and certain not urgent, and there are certain important and not important tasks and activities and acts. So let's understand this first quadrant. This first quadrant is talking about the urgent and important. So consider activities that have become urgent. So those activities were important and those activities have become urgent. So this becomes a crisis situations. And believe me, you and me, all the time we are working like this. We are working like this. We are pushing things to the limits and we are always executing things at the last minutes. So this is the style of an ineffective person, because if you are pushing things, if you are executing things at the last minute, their execution, the standard of the execution definitely impairs. So it is important to, so let's understand the second quadrant. Let's say the second quadrant is not urgent and important. So you execute things, you execute activities when they were important and when they were not urgent. So this is the time when you can really focus on those activities and prepare and plan. So things which are important and not urgent, then you have the time to really focus and get into those activities and execute as an excellence, let's say. So the third quadrant is not urgent, so not important but urgent. So if you would keep doing, if you would keep doing those unimportant, not important things urgently, you would basically be pushing the activities, important activities, into urgent. So you shouldn't be really keep busy in activities that are not important, though they are urgent but not important. So maybe you can prioritize the important and not urgent tasks. And then the last quadrant is the not important and not urgent. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be absolutely not doing these unimportant and urgent tasks. Maybe there's the activities that are not urgent and not important. Maybe it is your responsibility to do, but do it not at the cost of pushing the activities so that they become important and urgent. So this is the whole idea. So I would like you to implement this time management matrix in your personal lives and professional lives. And if anybody would like to further discuss with me or any of the concepts, he can get in touch with me. I would try to give my contact details. All right, so let's go to the fourth habit, which is think win-win. So it is about the think win-win, as we can sense the wordings, sense a concept in the wordings. Think win-win. It is about the mutual benefit, and you must have heard the terminologies like win-win, lose-lose, win-lose, lose-win. So this is about the mutual cooperation. So mutual cooperation means that you don't concentrate, and then you don't focus on I. You always talk about we. So most of the times in the organization, what we see is that people hire individuals, and after hiring, there is a imbalance between how much they are being paid and how much work they are doing. So if this is happening, that means it is the situation for the employee is becoming a lose, and for the organization it is becoming a win-lose. So if that happens, that means the organization is not actually trying to maintain a lasting, sustainable relationship. That means the employee immediately gets disappointed, gets demotivated, and his thoughts, his focus and energy will not be there on the work, but will be on the negative thoughts of moving somewhere else, on doing somewhere else, or thinking about the negative things like, oh, I'm not being paid well, oh, they are taking extra work, I'm the work that they didn't promise me in the job description, they are still getting that work done by me. So energy is used in the negative things rather than the positive things. So there is another very important concept of emotional bank account in this habit. So emotional bank account is the level of trust that is built in a relationship over the period. So and in emotional bank accounts, the actions and behaviors are considered as deposits and withdrawals. The actions and behaviors are considered as deposits and withdrawals. For instance, positive actions like keeping promises, showing empathy, showing fulfilling commitment, showing kindness. These are the deposits in a relationship. And consequently, the negative actions like breaking promises, not fulfilling commitments, being disrespectful, is the withdrawals in a relationship. So you can imagine if both of the things happen, so how the relationship evolves. Okay, now the fifth habit is the seek first to understand, then to be understood. So this habit is based on the concept of empathic listening. So what is empathic listening? So empathic listening is not listening by using your ears, not just listening your ears, but listening with your heart and mind. So it goes beyond hearing words. It involves actively listening to actively comprehend the emotions, the intentions, and the feelings, and putting yourself in the other shoes. So imagine if you have a certain complaint and your boss is listening empathically, and he tries to understand your emotions, feelings. So how relief would that be, and how good relationship it would really be showing. So if the boss is really, and if you are the boss, and the team, and if you are communicating team empathically, and if you listen to your team empathically, then you can understand that how good your relationship with your team would be, and you would be able to make the most of your team. Because this is the human nature, that if you try to understand their feelings, if you really try to understand them, then you can get the most out of them, actually. So the sixth habit is the synergize. Synergize is the habit that is based on the principle of mutual collaboration. That is based on the concept that the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. And what you do is that you collaborate with the teams, and then when you collaborate, you after collaborating, you can really work smart with the people, and you can create things together which you individually can't create. So this is the power of the synergy, and it is based on the concept, as I said, 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. 2 plus 2 is not is equal to 4. So and synergy cannot be created unless you have a good relationship with the people. Okay, so the last habit is the sharpen the saw. So sharpen the saw is the habit which is based on the principle of self-renewal. So self-renewal means that Stephen explains this renewal in the sense that an effective person should renew itself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in the four direction. What does it mean? It means, let's understand with an example, that consider a woodcutter who is cutting woods, and if he takes time to sharpen the saw, so the wood cutting process would become effective. So refer this example with your personal life. Even if you are an expert, even if you are a highly skilled person, but if you don't update yourself with the time, if you don't skill up yourself, at one point in time, you would be like unsharp saw. And so if you are keep sharpening the saw, keep developing yourself, if you are growing personally, if you're learning new skill, then you are actually making sure that you are staying relevant in future. So this is it for the introduction of these 7 habits, and I would really like you, and I would definitely motivate you to buy this book and read this book. And as I told you, I am the practitioner of this book for the last 20 years, and I'm from the horse's mouth. You can listen that this book will transform your bike. Though it is an old book, though it is now a quite familiar book, everyone talks about it. But believe me, if you would read it, your paradigm would be definitely changed, and you would be definitely transforming yourself. It would really help you transforming as a professional.